Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Blip Pod. I am Nolan.
And I am Joey.
And today we're going to be going over our most anticipated movies of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Or as could also be called,
the
most important movies of 2020 with a couple added on.
Yeah, because we were looking through and we kind of noticed that some of these movies that are on the list were also in our video we made last January, I believe, of our most anticipated movies of 2020. So since they never released because of COVID, it's now on our 2021 list. So you'll see some crossovers there.
Some crossovers. I have to say, the one I was talking about to you this earlier, the one bad thing about 2020 is we didn't get anything. The one good thing about 2020 is that 2021 is going to be an absolute motherload of content.
Mm-hmm.
Just so much stuff.
Gotta make up for the mistakes.
Yep. So without further ado, let us get into it. So how we're going to do it is we're going to go through the most anticipated movies of 2020 that are not superhero films. Obviously, if we added the superhero films in there, they'd be very high on the list because we're huge fans. So we're going through all the major ones that aren't superhero lists in no particular order. We'll talk about each one, why we're excited for them. What do we have, 20 of the non-superhero ones?
Yeah, we have 20.
We'll talk about why we're excited for them, what to expect, what to look forward to. We'll talk about how some are releasing, obviously, on digital at the same time. We'll talk about that later. And then we'll get into the superhero stuff that we usually go into for our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, to start it off, we'll kick it off with Pixar with Raya and the Last Dragon.
I think that's Disney Animation.
Is it Disney, not Pixar?
No, I think Raya the Last Dragon is technically the next Disney princess movie, and then Luca is the Pixar film.
Oh, gotcha. I thought that was also a Pixar movie.
It also shows, it's funny that you got them mixed up, because it shows that Disney Animation has really making big leaps and bounds in terms of what they do and then how they look, where I've seen some people get some Pixar stuff confused with Disney and vice versa, and I'm interested to see how Disney kind of distinguishes itself from Pixar.
Yeah, but I'd like the thing that really took my interest in this. Well, one, it's a Disney movie, and I basically support all Disney movies because they are generally good. So that right there gets me to watch it. But then also, on the other aspect, it kind of is like one of those movies that we kind of like how there's like a warrior and the dragons and all that mystical stuff. So that's another thing. It's like bringing that world of those kinds of movies I like into a Disney movie.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a more high-action Moana sort of deal, where it's technically a Disney princess movie, but it's not your cookie-cutter kind of cliche, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. It's more of like happens to be some sort of princess-esque character, but let's also give them a dragon and a giant armadillo the size of a cow, and let's run with it.
And Moana was ranked as one of my favorite Disney movies to date. So if they kind of go off that kind of style and that story, which it seems like it does, then this could possibly be another top 10 or so movies in Disney.
I'm also excited. The main character, Raya, is voiced by Kelly Marie Tran, also known as Rose from the Star Wars movies. And I will have to say, I know people have their problems with the character Rose, but I'm really glad that Rise of Skywalker didn't kill her career. Like, anything that happened in that was not her fault. She obviously wasn't writing the film. So I'm glad that being in that movie didn't kind of... sometimes there's the Star Wars curse, like Hayden Christensen, of, you're never in anything else.
Well, that's why she's voice acting, because I feel... Just look at Mark Hamill, for example, because I feel like so many Star Wars actors fall into that curse of getting other jobs.
Yeah.
Where Mark Hamill was able to find his way around it by doing a crap ton of anime. Like, if you look on his IMDb, when you think about it, you're oh, I don't see Mark Hamill on much, but if you look on his IMDb, he did hundreds of stuff. It's just all voice acting.
I heard this is really bring that up, actually, over Christmas break when I was at home. I was listening to this interview with him and Frank Oz, and apparently he always wanted to go into voice acting, and Star Wars was kind of an accident. Like, he loved voice acting as a kid. He went in the industry just so he could make a name for himself to do voice acting, and kind of not accidentally, obviously went to, but like, oh, got casted in Star Wars, and that was almost like a not his original intention. So that's why he went back to voice acting. And I mean, the guy is just, for anyone who, I'm a big sucker of the Batman animated series, the original, and
Joker.
She's just so, he is the quintessential Joker, and I kind of, I will fight anyone who says otherwise. And you're right, it is that kind of, I didn't realize that, but you're right, it's definitely that kind of switch into voice acting. And I hope that she's able to do good in this movie and then be kind of known as more of a Disney actress instead of just, oh, that Star Wars lady that everyone hated. Mm-hmm. She looks good, and yeah, she was good. I thought she was, acting-wise, good in Rise of Skywalker, and not Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi, so I'm glad she's in this. I love how we get sucked into a Star Wars hole when talking about a Disney princess film. But
you know us.
You know us. So you can't get too off brand.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, I am inevitable. So is the Star Wars topic. But no, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't say you're not excited for a Disney movie.
Okay, we'll give it an excitement rating. I will say I'm a 7 dragons out of 10 potential dragons of excitement.
I'd probably give it an 8.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good. Yeah. What do we got next?
All right. Moving on, we have Chaos Walking. That's the new movie with Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley.
This movie strikes me as either very good and underappreciated or overhyped and bad. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be one of those two things.
Yeah, I mean, like, one, it's kind of like an action base, and it's actually kind of cool concept. I didn't see the trailer in a long time. What is it again? Like, their powers, they could hear people's thoughts except for the girls? Or
yeah,
what is it again?
When men think on this planet of only men, when men think, their thoughts literally become visualized around them, and they can, like, hear each other's thoughts, so they are always completely honest with each other. But when a girl comes... I'm realizing this might be a really sexist movie. I just said that premise out loud.
It's a gender stereotype brought to a superhero type scale, an action movie type scale, just exploiting the stereotype.
Oh my god, I literally just said that premise out loud, stripping away the superpower bits, and I'm like, this may be the most sexist sci-fi movie of all time. Girls, the deceptive people who you can never tell what they're thinking. Oh, good lord. I didn't realize that. The thing is, though,
literally, within society and, like, all movies and shows, like, they always make fun of that, and that's just always how it is. It's just like, yeah, guys are just, like, very blunt with their... And then girls are always just like, oh, they say one thing, but they actually mean something else. So I think this movie is basically just kind of just, like, throwing that into, like, a superhero scale.
That's I didn't realize. I was kind of like, oh, moderately interested, and then saying the premise out loud with taking away the super habits, I was just like, but part of my brain went, like, half my brain was saying stuff, and the other half of my brain was listening to what I was saying, and the other half just went, oh no, oh no. Let's hope there's a twist. We haven't got too much information, so let's hope there's a cool twist, and it's not kind of a paint by numbers. Sci-fi. I'm still laughing.
I'm mostly sold on this for the cast. Like, I'll watch anything with Tom Holland, great actor. Same with Daisy Ridley, even though so many people are split on the Rey character. Some people don't like her, some people like her. I don't mind her character. It's not a character I absolutely love, but it's not a character I hate. But just Daisy Ridley alone, I think she did a great job acting in that.
Yeah.
And I think she's a great actress, so I'm excited to see what she does in this movie.
She's good. I think, ironically, we'll get to this later, but Murder on the Orient Express, which she's also in, I found her thoroughly enjoyable in that. We'll talk about Death and Honor in a little bit. But, dude, I'm still laughing. Like, I said that premise out loud, and then literally just part of me went, oh, no.
we didn't realize until... You don't realize until you actually explain the premise.
Yeah. Cast-wise... my cast-wise, we'll give it a 6 sexisms out of 10 sexisms. Sexism-wise, we'll give it a 2 sexisms out of 10 sexisms.
You're saying not considering the cast, just like the plot of it.
If I consider just the cast, and if you said to me a
just
Tom
the
Holland
cast.
and Daisy Ridley movie, I'd be like, oh, I'm moderately excited. I'll give it a 6 or 7 out of 10. But when I explain the plot, and I'm like joking about the sexism, but the plot's also kind of, it seems a little bit bland as of right now. Mm-hmm. I'm like, honestly, more of like a 2, between a 2 and a 4. I'll watch it if I get the chance. Will I go out and seek it? Honestly, probably not.
Yeah. But all right. Moving on.
Out of visualized thoughts, Joey, what would you give it?
For Chaos Walking. I think I'll do it the same way you did. For cast wise, I give it a 9 because you're bringing Marvel and Star Wars actors together into one movie, and 2 that I think are very good. So I give it a 9 out of that. And then for overall plot wise, I'd give it a 6 just because I could see how I think it's kind of like a cool, like it depends on which route how they execute it. It feels like it could be really cool, but then it also, like you said, it could be bland, and then it maybe not as interesting. It's kind of like that's it, like they had a good idea but it didn't go that well. So that's why I'm gonna give it a 6 because I think it does have potential to be really cool.
Yeah, the concept is cool. We'll see about the execution, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, moving on. We have Coming to America 2. So if you have not seen the first one, it was released a long time ago. Eddie Murphy, was he like a Nigerian prince or something?
Yeah, he's a prince of like a mythical African country who has to come to America. The second one is, by what I can tell, it's he knocked someone up while he was in America, so he has to come back and find his kid.
Yeah, like I never really pictured them making it's one of those movies that doesn't seem like there'd be a sequel to it, and that's probably why they took like 20 plus years to make it. But I just enjoy the first one so much. Eddie Murphy is great. He's hilarious that I'll definitely watch the second one too.
This strikes me in the same realm as Bill and Ted 3, where will it be the best movie of all time? No. Will it be made out of love for the original and thoroughly enjoyable to fans of the original? Yes. That's like, you know what I mean? It's probably something in line where they honestly wanted to make this movie. Like, if you're coming back to this movie, it's clear that Eddie Murphy was like, I really want to make a sequel.
Yeah.
Or he just wanted the cash. Yeah. Let's see. I will out of Talking Donkeys, I will give it if a is good and a waffles is bad, I give it a get out of my swamp. So you figure out what the hell that is. I don't know.
Right in the middle?
I think so.
Here, I'll simplify it. I'd say a 5 out of 10.
Okay, yeah.
Just because it's not something considering all the movies that are coming out, it's not something like an eye-catching thing. It's like, oh my god, I want to watch that so bad, but it's just a love for the original. Like, yeah, I'll watch it, but there's no rush to watch it.
You know what? It's like a Borat 2. If I get bored one day, I'll watch it, but if I don't get bored, I probably won't see it.
Yeah, exactly. But moving on, we have Kingsman 3, which is called The King's Man, which is a prequel to both the Kingsmen.
Yes. And just for differentiation purposes, allegedly there's going to be something called Kingsman 3 in the future, so I don't know.
Yes, that's why that's kind of, it's technically the third Kingsman movie, but it's a prequel, so I guess that they're not calling it Kingsman 3.
Well, in the vein of Lion King, we'll call it Kingsman 1.5.
Yeah,
actually, wait, no,
2.5.
We'll just call it Kingsman half.
Prequel.
Half of a king's. Hey, it is half of a king's men is a king's man. It's just one of them. I'm excited for this.
Of course. I love both those movies. I think both of them are great.
I liked the first one. I'm not gonna lie to you, they lost me on the second one because the first one was like a modern update of a spy movie, and the second one was more of how much blood and gore can we fit into a spy movie? Like, you know what I mean? It didn't, like the first one kind of took your Bond formula and updated it. And I would have
Yep.
really loved to almost see, maybe for the second one, if they took like the Jason Bourne formula and updated it and did that kind of thing, and then went through like spy franchises. But it kind of felt like kind of run of the mill action movie. But this one looks really cool because it's back to basics. They don't have any crazy technology, sort of. It's World War One. It's a really cool like spy adventure movie. So I'll watch the hell out of this.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. That's how a lot of trilogies. Well, this is actually going to end up being like a 9 movie. They're trying to do like a Fast and Furious type thing. How they're doing like 9+ movies. They're trying to do that with Kingsman too, like a cinematic universe. But like let's just say within this trilogy right now of what they're going to have out, a typical trilogy. This is how it always goes out. The first one's amazing. The second one is usually like nowhere close or just not as good as the first one, because like once after you make a first one that's absolutely amazing, people love, you can't just do the same thing. You have to take risks, try to change it up a bit to keep people interested in it. But a lot of so that's basically like a 50-50 hit or miss. You could do something, change it where people love it even more or hate it. So that's why I feel like the most sequels don't turn out as good. And this one I still like a lot. It's definitely not on the scale of the first one. But then the third movies are usually up to almost as good as the first one, but definitely better than the second one, just because they learned from their mistakes from the second one, which it looks like they definitely did. So I'm excited to see this, especially since it's like, what is it, World War One or two era?
World War One, I believe, yeah.
World War One.
Which I'm a sucker for historical pieces, especially, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm a sucker for historical British pieces, just movies in general. So I'll watch the hell out of this. Yeah, I think Kingsman 2 has a couple of great scenes, but there's not enough plot to hold the couple, like the Almost Heaven West Virginia scene is great. I got a huge kick out of seeing Elton John go all kick ass on some random dudes in like in like the whole Elton John getup. I thought that was highly amusing and like 100% Elton John. But it didn't have enough good plot for me to like hold it together. But the fact that the King's Man looks completely kind of new and interesting, like almost like a classic spy movie, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll watch this. I'll say, okay, out of exploding cufflinks,
Exploding heads.
Exploding.
I was from the first one.
Yeah, I was actually going to say exploding cufflinks, but out of exploding cufflink heads, I will give it a 6 out of 7.
Oh, out of 7?
Yeah, because fuck my ranking system.
Well, I was gonna do 9 out of 10, but 6 out of 7 sounds pretty much the same.
Sounds good.
Alright.
What do we got next?
So next we have Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh.
Ooh.
Or if you're gonna do a modern update, dun 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 dun. Because everything nowadays has to have the really slowed down classic theme song and high key piano notes. Have you noticed that?
In the female version, they did the Fall Out Boys Ghostbusters version.
That's true. Okay, so did you watch the female Ghostbusters?
Yes.
Okay, so we won't get into a whole thing about it right now. I think that I had no problem with the people were pissed that they were doing an all-female reboot of Ghostbusters. Honestly, I could not care less. If they had given Kristen Wiig, and we'll talk about this on a future date if you guys want to check in, but I thought she was fantastic in Wonder Woman. The way she was written, like she did what she was supposed to do. I think Leslie Jones is really good. I think that movie, if it wasn't a remake of the first one, beat for beat, just worse, could have been something good, but it wasn't allowed to be. And I'm glad that they took the hint from that, and they were like, no one wants a remake of the first one. They want a sequel. They want something like your 2018 Halloween, where you go back to basics, you go back to the original 40 years later and see what it's like. And this looks, I don't know, I'm excited for this.
It kind of this is not just because like the casting of the kids.
Yeah,
they have the guy from Stranger Things. It's not just because he's in Stranger Things. It actually gives me a Stranger Things vibe. It's not just because the actor, just like the way they seem, like the plot is like with them going searching for this supernatural
small town
phenomenon. Yeah. It feels like a movie version of Stranger Things, but it's with ghosts instead of like demigorgons.
Well, this was made because it's been pushed back a year, if you remember. It was made in the height of Stranger Things. That's why the kid was cast. That's why. So I have a feeling they'll kind of pull on that a little bit, but we also haven't seen too much of it, and I am interested because I did see there was some behind the scenes stuff of Paul Rudd going to what looked like the exterior of the firehouse, like the New York firehouse in the first Ghostbusters. That was like one of the first promo videos. So I'm like, will they eventually... It could be a thing where the trailer is only showing us like the first 20-ish minutes, and then they have to go full hog on it. Dude, Paul Rudd is great in everything.
Yep, I love that man.
Just so good, and I love the fact that I like the fact that they're kind of playing on the fact where all this stuff happened in New York, but because of the internet, it's kind of been written off as kind of like a conspiracy theory, and it's just like, oh yeah, it was, images were clearly photoshopped. Everyone was on drugs in the 80s. It's fine. Like, I like that concept that all this shit happens, and basically the Ghostbusters clearly went bankrupt afterwards, and everyone kind of hated them, and then everyone just kind of wrote it off, and there's just like Paul Rudd going like, wow.
Yes, yeah. So I think it'll be a hit. Like, especially a lot of hate for the female Ghostbusters. So I think this is taking a different turn, and you having Paul Rudd, a very well liked actor, plus a cast of kids, especially one from Stranger Things. So I think this would probably be liked more than the newer Ghostbusters.
Yes, I think people will like it a lot more. I have one, and we'll move on a second because I know I'm talking too much about this, but I really do love the first Ghostbusters movie. My one qualm, the one thing I'm nervous about, is the reason I find the original Ghostbusters so good and funny is that it's 4 relatively serious guys taking on something that's absolute nonsense. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, it's 4 fully grown men. You've got Ernie, who's like a cab driver. You've got Egon, who's like a scientist. You got Dan Aykroyd's character, who I don't remember. Also like a professor, and you got Bill Murray, who's a professor. And it's funny seeing those kind of 4 very serious real life people come in contact with ghosts. So I'm a little nervous about the fact that it's a bunch of kids coming in contact with ghosts again. I kind of hope that Paul Rudd and maybe some other adults, maybe Bill Murray comes back as like Ghostbusters. Because as much as I like the kids, I really don't want like an It meets Stranger Things ripoff.
True, yeah. It definitely is some takeaways where it could go wrong, but it's just another one of those movies where it's a good idea, good premise. It's all about the execution.
Yes, most definitely. What would you... Okay, out of ghost traps, how many ghost traps would you give it? Out of how many ghost traps? You get to make out what number it's out of.
I'll give it 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Okay, I will give it, because of my nostalgia for the first one, I will give it... I'll give it 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 ghost traps.
Yeah, it's not bad. I just gave it a little bit lower, mostly because there's already those the old ones that I love a lot, and then the new one that didn't meet the mark. So then they're making another one. So I'm just like have no idea how it's going to turn out. So I don't want to put it too high.
That's a good point. Okay, I'll say I'll stick to my 8 out of 10 ghost traps, but I'll make the point to note that means 2 of the ghosts have escaped. So potential havoc may be wreaked.
Perfect. All right, so moving on. We have James Bond. No Time to Die.
No time to get released by the looks of it.
Yeah, this was one of those movies that we had in our like top 5 for 2020.
Dude, I was literally... that movie got delayed. That movie was supposed to come out like the week after quarantine started, I think. I think it was April of last year, and everything went to hell in March. I honestly was like, I was like set. I was gonna buy my tickets. I love the James Bond movies. Back then, I was like last February and March. I just rewatched. So I was super hyped. And while I am still relatively hyped, I'm not gonna lie, and I think that this movie will flop because of it. I've kind of lost interest. They missed their window of opportunity a bit.
That's also another thing. It's saying people might not be as eager to go and watch it, but that might not. But then maybe if when people actually start going to watch it and it's actually as good as people thought it was gonna be back then maybe it'll bring in that crowd again of people that forgot about it.
I hope so. And this one benefits where it is his last Bond movie. So, two things. No sequel is right. I guess no real sequel. They're going to definitely do a reboot or some sort of something based. It's Bond, you know what I mean? But it benefits from the fact where they can kill off anybody, they can do anything, and they can throw anything at him. Character, person, villain, circumstance. So I think it will benefit of the fact where it will be fresh. It will be the end. It will be kind of not Logan-esque in that kind of depressing sort of way, but Logan-esque in the what's going to happen, no one is safe sort of way. And that's why I'm still excited about it, because will he retire? Will he die? In the old movies, I'd much more expect him to retire. But now in this kind of gritty, Bond they've kind of created, he may just get killed. Like, that might just be the end of the movie, this is how Bond dies.
It might be.
You know what I mean? And either way, I'm super on board for it.
Did he ever die in any of the Bond? I know there's like over 30 movies. Did he die in any of them?
Let's see. This is the 25th. Let me do a quick Google. You can continue with your ranking of this movie, but I'm gonna say no, not like ever really died, because they usually keep it open where up until Daniel Craig came along, there was kind of this thing where they were kind of all in the same continuity, and that they were all the same guy who just kind of got recast every so often.
Oh, gotcha.
But it was never confirmed, but it was never officially denied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that'd be cool if they actually went, because this is his last James Bond movie, so that'd be cool if they actually went on and like full on killed him, because that would bring some more emotion to the movie too, because people are just like all in that action of James Bond. And plus another thing that sells me in the movie is my wife is in it, Ana de Armas, so I'll definitely watch it for her too.
That's a new congratulations, that's a new development. Wait a second, how did you didn't invite me to your wedding, you fucker?
Well, she wanted to loaf because she was dating Ben Affleck and she kind of left him for me. So.
Are you kidding? I'm from Boston, I could fucking take on Ben Affleck. I'll kick that guy's ass. Are you fucking kidding me? That son of a bitch got nothing on me.
I'll throw him in the harbor.
I'll throw him in the harbor? He won't stand a fucking chance, guy. I really need... I'm going to have to bleep this out when we do the edits because I'm swearing a lot, but that's how you get the Boston accent down. God. God. Well, fun fact, potential spoiler, so skip like 15 seconds if you want to. I just googled, does James Bond ever die? And it says not until this movie he doesn't.
Great.
So apparently there you go. Okay. Well, that answers that question. Let's see, out of redacted, I will give it redacted. In the style of 007. Out of beep, I will give it beep.
Yeah, I'll give it 6 out of 10.
Okay. And I will give it, just because I'm a James Bond fan and I love Daniel Craig, I will give it a 8 or 9 out of 10, to be quite honest with you.
There you go.
I like the Daniel Craig movies. I love when movies don't have any strings attached. Like, I love a movie like this where it's the ending, so you can kind of do anything. So I'm a sucker for this kind of film. So continue.
All right. Well, next on our list, we're keeping in the theme of action movies. Fast and Furious 9. All right. So I gotta say, I was a huge fan of the Fast franchise. Like, I binged them all, and I loved all of them up until 7. Once like the last movie, like you could tell so it starts off they're just street racers, and then every movie it just develops more and more ridiculous, and I was okay with it up until the 7th one was the last one, mostly because of the Paul Walker thing. But then once the 8th one hit, I'm just like, all right, this is so ridiculous right now. This kind of getting out of hand. Like, these guys, they're just doing like such crazy things that are not even close to being realistic. And now this new one looks even more ridiculous. Like that one scene in the trailer when he just goes off the cliff and then the thing just hooks on and they swing like Spider-Man with it's a Spider-Man car. It's freaking swinging on a web across a mountain that he intentionally did somehow. I'm just like, this is ridiculous.
Well, have you heard what got announced for 10?
Space?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like, they're going to have cars in space? Is that what they're going to do?
Apparently. I really want 11 to be, because they're like, 11 will be the last one. I really want 11 to be a sort of reboot with the potential for more, but the reboot premise is, and we've talked about this before, I want the reboot premise to be them go back in time, and like 2000s Dom meets 2020 Dom, who is this time-traveling super god. And is like, he just meets 2000s Dom, who, if you remember in the first movie, was stealing DVD players. Like, he was a guy who stole DVD players.
Know what this franchise is turning into? What it reminds me of? I'd Rick and Morty, the international cable. What's interdimensional cable?
Yeah, interdimensional cable.
It just reminds me of the trailer of Two Brothers. Well, remember, you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I think that was basically literally like the Fast. I think they were joking on.
I think they're just making fun of it
because they're like two brothers, normal mechanics, but Mexicans from space. It's kind of racist.
Yeah, from space. Yeah. So I feel like that's honestly what it is turning into. Like, I could still be a big fan of this franchise, but if I just view it differently, like before, I thought it was like a cool core, about family, all these action, and there's actually some touching moments of it. I'm like, this franchise is great, and now it's just getting ridiculous, where if you just keep that mindset, you're like, oh, I hate this, but if you turn, like, what I'm kind of viewing these movies as is just like comedy, just like the more ridiculous it gets, the more I could just like laugh at the film and still enjoy it at the same time.
Yeah.
So like, that's why I hope they do go to space. Like, that's fucking hilarious, even though it's not supposed to be funny. You could laugh and be like, oh, that's hilarious. Like this stupid stuff they're doing.
Ironically,
so like that's kind of how I'm viewing it now.
It's almost turned into a James Bond-esque type of film franchise. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which I don't mind, honestly. I think the first one I actually really enjoyed for its kind of simplicity. Like the first one is literally just an undercover cop trying to get into these road racers. That's all it is. It's super simple. I kind of enjoyed it. And the newer ones, like Fast 5, I think, was the Rock's first one, which I liked. That was one of the main ones I like. I like it because then it took a kind of turn into, we're now a full-on action movie. We're like Jason Bourne meets James Bond sort of thing. I had a point. Oh, yeah. My point was, and before we move on, my sister, weirdly enough, over the summer, just watched all of them. So she watched all of them and she'd never seen them before. And so she's watching them in the living room. I'm obviously up here, so I'm not with them. And apparently she was watching it in the living room on the speaker, and my mom was reading she reads every night in the kitchen. So then by night 3, my sister hears, my mom doesn't usually swear, she just goes, if he says family one more fucking time, I'm going to break that screen.
They're really juicing up the theme.
Yeah, they got his brother, his lost twin brother. Yeah, they've gone off a cliff.
But I gotta say though, I really enjoy the Hobbs and Shaw movie. Like, I hope they do more of those, because that one was actually, I enjoyed a lot.
That one I enjoyed because it was stylistically kind of its own thing. That one, you know what? Hobbs and Shaw was more a John Wick style of movie than anything else. For the beginning, I guess for the end it was full superhero. But you know what I mean? That kind of like, It's a guy and he's doing his morning routine and he gets called in for a thing and he has to fight this other guy. Out of
family.
No.
Out of enemy and family, I rank it a friends.
Out of enemy and family, I rank it a friends. Out of let's see. Out of who's the rapper who is in those movies? What's his name?
I can't think.
Why
I won't remember it right now.
Oh my! You know what? The minute we stop recording, I'm gonna remember.
Yeah, I don't want to waste time trying to think of it though.
It was okay. So out of let's see, between Vin Diesel's Melonhead and The Rock's Melonhead, I'll give it a Jason Statham Melonhead.
Exactly what I was thinking.
That's my ranking. Tyrese Gibson. No. Yeah. Maybe. Whatever. We'll move on.
All right. So up next we have Free Guy. This is where we have Ryan Reynolds. He's a video game character, but just like one of those extras. And where he's just like a bank. Would he work at a bank or something?
Yeah, he's like a bank teller,
like,
I think.
Yeah, and then like the actual people in the real world playing the video games. Every single day is the same thing. They come in, they rob the bank, whatever, until he actually puts on the glasses or whatever that makes him the player that the people, like the kids, see that are playing the video game. So I think this is actually a really cool premise. Like I think so. It'll be a funny movie.
I think it's going to be a cool premise. I'm excited for it. I like Ryan Reynolds. I like Joe Carey, and he's in it. I think this is another thing that suffered from COVID, because if that had come out when this was first announced to come out, this would be peak. It would have come out peak Fortnite craze. Fortnite is still around, but it's definitely died off a bit. You know what I mean? It's not as, like, beginning of last year and then the year before, Fortnite was, oh my god, you know what I mean? It was the holy grail of things. And I think this really could have capitalized on that, where it's like, oh, it's kind of like a Fortnite movie starring Ryan Reynolds. And I'm super excited for it regardless, because it looks really cool. Like, an AI accidentally gets put into this video game. It's got Taika Waititi in it as the villain. I'm excited for that. So I'm just kind of generally like, oh yeah, this is just a fun movie to watch.
Of course, you gotta. That's why it's just one of those fun summer movies.
Yes, very much so.
Not out there to win Oscars. Just out there to have a good time, to watch with the family and have some laughs.
This looks like it's a movie to entertain, very much so. I don't honestly have too much to say on it either way. I think they've released one too many trailers, because I kind of know the entire plot of the movie by now, but that's more because of COVID than anything else. Let's see. Out of, hey man, my name's Korg, and the revolution has begun. I'll give it,
I'm made of rocks.
Yeah, I'll give it a, Thor, that dickhead's on the game again.
Yeah, New Master 69.
New Master 69. That's my rating of it. Also known as an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so let's try to pop through a couple of these a little bit faster here.
Yeah.
What do we got? Next up, Cruella. I don't really have much to say with this. It's just a classic Disney movie with the 101 Dalmatians, but they're bringing it to live action, which they actually had a couple Dalmatian live actions, but this is mainly about Cruella. And I think where this movie is going to hit or miss is the casting for Cruella, which I don't know if they actually casted her or they were just thinking about it.
Emma Stone.
It is Emma Stone? I saw something a while ago about Anne Hathaway.
No.
I thought they
released a promo picture too of her and her two goons. I'm not gonna lie to you, I have never seen 101 Dalmatians in its entirety. I gotta watch that. I am mildly interested just because I'm kind of have a morbid fascination with the live action adaptations of Disney stuff recently. Where I'm like, they're kind of shit, but I'm interested to see what happens.
Yep. Yeah. It's not one of the ones I'm crazy about, but I'll definitely give it a look just because 101 Dalmatians was a classic a Disney movie that I generally enjoyed as a kid. So
I think,
and fun fact too, second grade I played Dalmatian 46 in my school play, so I got some experience with that. I got some stardom, so I'll be looking out for in the movie Dalmatian 46.
You'd be like, oh, they recast it, damn it. I'm just imagining 101 tiny children all dressed up as dogs, just crammed into this tiny stage. They're like, we're doing a perfect recreation of the 101 Dalmatians. We've casted.
Exactly how it was.
I think the reason why I'm more excited for this than some other ones is this strikes me more as a Maleficent rather than like a Lion King, where because they're not doing a perfect adaptation and because it takes place before the actual film, they have more creative leeway.
Given more a different story to they want to make you view the character in a different way, just like how Maleficent, you view her a different way than you did in Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, and they have more creative freedom. Obviously, they can only do so much because she has to get 201 Dalmatians, but they, they can do more with their story than we have to literally recreate the Lion King shot by shot.
Yep.
Out of 5 dead dogs, I'll give this a 3 dead dogs.
Well, out of 101 Dalmatians, I'll give it a 62.
You're right. Out of 101 dead dogs, out of 101 dead dogs, I give it a 56 dead dogs.
No, I'll give it a 46 dogs.
I'll give it a 46 dead dogs. Okay. You give it
next.
No, how many? You were 40? What were you? 46?
46.
Well, we'll do 45 dead dogs so you don't get killed.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So that means I'm puppy number 1 now.
It's like the fucking mafia over here. You're like, I'm the boss now. What do we got next?
All right. So next up we got Uncharted.
Oh, I forgot
another
about
Tom
this.
Holland film.
This is one that based on apparently they filmed a movie, they test screened it, and it was apparently it was one of the worst movies that anyone had ever seen. So then they had to reshoot like the whole damn thing.
Yeah, see, this I honestly really don't know what to expect from this. It's just, it's a Tom Holland film, cool, and it seems like an adventure film, cool. I'll check it out.
I know. Apparently, the video. I've not played them. I don't have a PlayStation, and it's exclusive to PlayStation. Apparently, the games are amazing. Apparently, it's like almost like a modern day Indiana Jones, which people love. I'm hoping the movie is more like that. I'm a little worried, but I'm hopefully optimistic.
Yes, I really have nothing much to say about this because I don't know what to expect or really know much about it. But I'll give it a 5 out of 10 just because we got Tom Holland and an adventure film.
I'll give it 5 out of 10 for now. I hope they release a trailer soon so I can kind of go from there.
Yeah. But we're moving on. This is actually probably going to end up being Nolan's favorite movie of 2021. It is Minions: The Rise of Gru.
I knew it. Son of a bitch. The minute you said, this is probably going to be Nolan's favorite movie, I'm like, if this guy says Minions, I'm going to fucking lose it.
Yeah, he has a bunch of Minions just in his room, like he has posters and everything, stuffed Minions.
That's me. You go on Facebook and that's all I post.
Plus you have young Gru, Steve Carell with the high-pitched voice. Girls, where are the girls?
What is the quote? I will have to say, I didn't hate the Minions movie. I thought it was kind of meh. Let's see. I think that the first Despicable Me is amazing. The second Despicable Me is kind of okay. The third Despicable Me, I wasn't a fan of.
The third one's the worst one, I think.
Yeah, I think the third one, I probably enjoyed a little more of the second one, because the third one at least tries something sort of new, where it's like, oh, he has a twin brother. I'm like, that's kind of enjoyable. I think on their own, the Minions aren't terrible. The marketing, I hate. You know what I mean? Like, if they were just in the movies, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of fun. The fact that it's just for the last 10 years now, because Despicable Me came out in 2010, the last 10 years, Minions have been like poured into our eyeballs. Kills me.
The thing is, though, Minions are like my mom's favorite thing. She absolutely loves them. And
yeah.
I can't lie, like, I get a kick out of them too. So.
Oh, yeah, no. Like, I'm annoyed by the marketing, but I think when I first watched them, the original Despicable Me, I was, 10 years old, I found them hilariously enjoyable. I think me and my little sister would be like, banana, like, every time we wanted food.
Banana.
So, le papoy? La papoy. So,
Papa.
Yeah, papa. Like, they're enjoyable, and honestly, this one looks like it's probably going to be the best thing from Despicable Me since the first one.
I don't even think you could call it, even though I don't even think it's a Minions movie. It's basically a Despicable Me prequel because it's with Gru and then the Minions around him. So
I think my guess is they made a Minions movie, and then they realized the Minions movie, even though it was outrageously successful, wasn't really critically acclaimed, and they were like, "What? Gru is still the best. Steve Carell is still by far the best part of these movies, like 100%.
Yeah, of course.
What's the only way to make Steve Carell funnier is
high-pitched kid's voice.
Exactly, make him a child, because seeing Steve Carellisms in like an 8-year-old is intrinsically funny, because the guy's a strange dude when he's doing the Guru voice. So I'm not gonna lie, I'll probably watch this when it comes out so I can get a kind of opinion on what it ended up being.
Mm-hmm. But I'll give this a 6 out of 10.
I will give this, if bad is a one-eyed minion and good is a two-eyed minion, I give this a Bob.
I like it. Alright, with that we can move on. We have In the Heights next.
Weirdly excited for this one.
Yeah. I'm not like a super fan of musicals, but there are also plenty of musicals I like The Greatest Showman. I absolutely love that movie. And this is the guy from Hamilton, right?
Yep, Lin-Manuel Miranda. He wrote this before Hamilton, ironically, and then Hamilton became more successful. You know what? This is one of those movies where all my hype is based on the trailer. Whoever edited that trailer... Okay, trailer houses and trailer editors do not get enough credit, because they have to edit together an entire movie to sell it to you in 2 minutes. And
they honestly can make or break a movie. Their success.
They make or break a movie, and I think this is like a whole conversation about the industry that we won't get into. I don't think enough film editors get enough trailer editors get the credit they deserve. But this trailer is so good. Mm-hmm. I know we're not really even talking about the movie, and I'm kind of derailing us for a bit, but the way they edited the music to match the trailer, they've edited the visuals to match this specific song, so good, is an immediate hook of, wow, I'm interested. Like, this is like a wow, I'm interested hook.
Yep. But that's also could be a bad thing, because then you're so excited, and then you go see it, and then the movie is not as good as the trailer. But I feel like just because it's a musical, I feel like it has potential. Because what really hooks you within this trailer is how the music syncs up with their editing. And if there's music played throughout the entire film, I think it could give off that general vibe that the trailer does.
It's written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and it's directed by the guy who directed Crazy Rich Asians, and both of them are massively talented and very uniquely positioned to tell this story of inclusion and diversity, specifically in a musical setting. So I think they kind of got the best creative team to make this film.
Yeah. So I'd say I'm generally excited for this. I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
I'll give it a tap dancing, flamenco dancing Nolan.
Perfect analogy.
Yep.
Well, with that statement, we could move on. Another Disney movie, Jungle Cruise.
Woo! The Rock in a tiny boat.
Yeah. Well, what can go wrong?
The Rock.
But I gotta say, I'm actually, when I heard they were making this movie, I was actually super excited, and I still am, just because I've been going to Disney World since I was 4 years old. I've been there many times. I love Disney World. And just like Pirates of the Caribbean, it's one of those movies that an original ride they made at Disney World, and now they're making a movie based off that ride. Like that storytelling within a ride that a place you already been on, and now you're going to see this adapted into a movie, which I'm really excited to see what they do with that, because Pirates of the Caribbean, huge success. I love those movies, especially the first 3, and that was based off of a ride at Disney World. So I think they have potential to have a good movie. Plus, you have Emily Blunt and The Rock, like 2 great actors.
Yes. I think part of me secretly wants this movie to fail. Here's why. Part of me secretly wants the movie to fail so that we, on Instagram, can post a thing that says...
The Rock sunk the...
Jungle Cruise sunk because a rock was put in it.
People are gonna hate us.
Oh yeah, so much. Ironically, you're right. I'm a sucker for Pirates of the Caribbean. This is gonna sound like one of the nerdiest things I've ever said, but me and my girlfriend, when we started dating, bought the Lego Pirates of the Caribbean video game on Xbox. I just bought an Xbox, and last week over Christmas break, we actually finished 100% of the game. And the last level of the game is you get to go through a complete Lego recreation of the Disney World ride, augmented with movie scenes. So cool. And this is just a side tangent to say I really like Pirates of the Caribbean. Even, honestly, there's only the fourth one I wasn't super interested in, but I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fifth one. 1, 2, and 3 I love. So I'm hoping they kind of take that style and direction where they kind of make it a little bit grittier than you'd expect out of a Disney ride movie.
Plus, it also seems like it could kind of give off Jumanji vibes because it's The Rock in the jungle or an adventure.
I do hope it doesn't too much because I really enjoyed the 2 new Jumanjis. I mean, we saw it together in theaters. Yeah. I thought it was very enjoyable. That gave me a total kick. But I hope they don't lean into the... Like, I hope it makes a name for itself beyond the, oh, it's The Rock. You know, it's it's The Rock in a shirt that is way too small for him.
A very tight Explorers button-down
shirt. And a hat that fits... a hat that wouldn't fit me.
Exactly. But overall, I'd say I'd give this... I'd say for the nostalgic of Disney World, I'd give this an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd give this as, let's see, sticking to my completely insane and really dumb level of ranking I've unfortunately kind of branded myself with right now. I will give it...
The rock and scissors.
Yeah,
Paper and rock.
Out of... If a rock is good and scissors are bad, I'll give it a... tugboat with a rock in it. There you go.
Oh, exactly. There you go.
So it's good, but has the potential to sink.
Exactly. I like it.
I cracked myself up.
All right.
Okay, what's next?
Well, then, next up, a movie that I'm pretty excited for because the first one was very entertaining, is another Ryan Reynolds movie, The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. I don't know if you've seen the first one.
I did. I feel like this movie is coming out weirdly late. You know what I mean?
What was it, 2017?
First
one?
Let me double
check. It was 2017 because I remember I watched it the first time right after I graduated high school.
Doesn't it feel later than that?
A little bit.
Part of me is going, yeah, you're right, it's 2017. Okay, maybe never mind then. In my brain, it came out in like 2015.
Yeah, no, 2017.
I don't know why this movie's getting made.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really, after I watched the first one, I didn't like picture like, oh yeah, let's get a sequel or whatever. But yeah. I really enjoyed the first one. I think the dynamic between Samuel Jackson and Ryan Reynolds was hilarious. Plus, what's his wife's name? I forgot.
Oh, Selma Hayek.
Selma Hayek. Yeah, she like I never like she's in plenty of comedies. Like she never really had like the leading like. She never had like a role that really made me laugh out loud that much. But this in the first Hitman's Bodyguard, I thought she really made me laugh out loud in a couple scenes. I think this character is one that I really find one of her funniest characters that she played. And now this one seems to be about her even more. So I feel like having a dynamic with those three people together within the entire movie could be pretty funny.
Okay, I'm realizing you're right about the dynamic. I just looked online, so it was at 43% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, yeah. But it's one of those kind of blockbuster movies, so that's not a big indicative. It only has a 67% like people score. You know what I mean? Like actual fan score. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going, why are they making a sequel? I just realized the first movie only took $30 million to make, which sounds like a lot, but considering
how much it made.
Considering they have Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson, that's basically nothing. It made $180 million, which also doesn't sound like a lot, but let's say 30 million for production. We'll say 30 million for marketing because I remember that marketing was pretty extensive, and usually it's double the budget for marketing. That still made double its entire marketing and initial budget back. So
for the studio, this is probably just their B-level movie that they released throughout the year.
Yep.
So if you're making double within that movie, then then that's good because you have your high runner movies that are supposed to be making you your big bucks.
And it's a simple movie to make. It looks like people will enjoy it. I don't know. This was one of those movies where I'll watch it if I'm bored, but I enjoyed the first one enough, but again, not enough where I was like, ooh, I'm dying to see where these characters go. I was like, oh, that was a fun watch.
Yeah, so it's definitely not. I agree with you. It's definitely not one where I'm gonna be like, oh, I gotta watch this. Like, I gotta go to theaters, watch it, like opening day or whatever. This is the type of movie that when I'm like having a family movie night, like on a Friday or a Saturday, I'm with my family and they're like, hey, let's watch a movie tonight. This is the type of movie I'd want to watch.
That's true. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes a good point. I'm gonna give it. Let's see. What would you give it?
I give it a 7 out of 10.
I will give it slightly lower just because nothing jumps out at me. I will give it a. Oh, I have to wait. I have to stick to my insane thing. I've really burdened myself with this, haven't I?
Give it Samuel Jackson motherfuckers, because he says that a lot of times in this movie. Out
of between, let's see, if Mace Windu is good, and what's a really bad character that Nick Fury plays?
Oh, like a bad character, you said?
Did I just say Nick Fury? Okay, if Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury is good and Samuel Jackson as Mace Windu is bad, I will give it a Samuel Jackson as that guy in Kingsman, also known as a 5 out of 10.
All right, sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
But then next we have another big blockbuster movie, and this is Mission Impossible 7.
AKA Tom Cruise in his undying attempt to commit suicide.
Yeah, exactly. Jumps into space without a spacesuit because he's that badass.
He's just that badass. He's just that suicidal. I have a confession to make.
What's that?
I've actually never seen a Mission Impossible movie.
Oh damn! I was about to say I didn't see the new one, but yeah, you haven't seen any of them. They're basically just like your James Bond.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of clips on YouTube.
Yeah. It's a mixture of James Bond, the new Fast and Furiouses, and Jason Bourne. Just put them all together, just like steroids.
Here's my thing, and honestly, this is, and we'll get to our reactions to this one. My biggest thing of Mission Impossible is I cannot find all of them on a streaming service. I think 4 and 6 are on Prime. One of them may be on Netflix, but I'm not gonna pay. By the time we're on movie 6, so let's say $3 to rent each movie if I'm going to do it legally. I'm not going to pay $20, $30 to watch a couple movies that I might not enjoy.
Yeah, like Mission Impossible, they're never, I still haven't even seen the 6th one yet.
Apparently the 6th one's really good.
It has Henry Cavill.
Yeah, that's why I want to watch it, honestly.
But yeah, they're never movies I'm like, oh, I gotta watch these. They're just movies. Just like if I'm ever in the mood for an action movie, it's like, hey, I'll throw it on.
I'll probably get caught up for this one.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I'll definitely catch up on them too because there is a storyline with this character, and I kind of completely forgot it because I didn't see them in a long time, and I actually never seen them in order.
Yeah.
So I feel like I do have to. I probably should, and I probably will before I see the 7th one. Watch them all in order, if I get that dedicated to it.
Yeah, we should do a rewatch. But in terms of this one, I'm actually pretty excited for it because I heard they're going more for kind of continuous storytelling as opposed to episodic sort of deal for the movies now. So I will give it out of 10 crazy Tom Cruises, I will give it a Tom Cruise cackling while jumping on a couch attacking Oprah. That's my final rating.
I'd say mine is a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's probably what mine translates to.
All right. Well, moving on, we have 5 movies left on this, and these are all stuff that Nolan said. Like, I really don't know too much about these movies or seen
Gotcha.
the
Yep.
movies before, so you could really take the lead on these. But the first one we have Dune, which
Dune.
I really don't know much about at all.
Dune. The reason I'm excited for Dune is this might surprise some people. I'm an avid reader. I read all the time. I love to read classic books. Dune is one of the books that completely missed me, so I don't know a lot about it, but I do know it was the inspiration for. It was one of the inspirations for Star Wars, for a lot of stuff. It's kind of the inspiration for a lot of the sci-fi space films we watch nowadays. We've seen parts. I know me and you, Joey, have both seen parts of the original, and it looked really bad. But we know this one guy who swears that the book's really good. So I am willing to give this. I'm excited. This seems like a new saga of movies that I don't know that much about. So I'm excited to see what this is.
Yep.
You know what this strikes me as? This strikes me, if they do it the way that everyone says they're doing it, this strikes me as Space Lord of the Rings, where it follows the book exactly, but the story's so great and the visuals are so awesome that it's still super engaging and you're always hooked.
Mm-hmm.
I will give it... I don't have, honestly, that much information. The cast is insane, though. The cast, they literally just got everyone who's really good.
With a movie that, like a remake or sequel, whatever it is, from a movie that tanked, it's important to have a good cast.
Yeah, apparently it's a technically a remake, but the original movie was kind of sort of based on the book, but not really. Whereas this one is like, it is the book just in movie form. Like, here's the cast. Timothy Chalamet, yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that guy. Zendaya, love her. Jason Momoa, amazing. Dave Bautista, awesome. Oscar Isaac, awesome. Stellan Skarsgård, you know, the guy, the professor from Thor, and he's in a bunch of other stuff.
Okay,
You know
I gotta be honest with you. I was about to just say before, like, after you ranking, like, I'll probably not end up watching this movie unless I'm with somebody who wants to watch it. Then I'd watch it, maybe like years down the road. But you just saying that cast, I actually want to watch it now.
Dude, I'm not done yet.
I actually really want to watch it.
Javier Bardem, the guy from No Country for Old Men and then Pirates 5, he's in it. David Dasmalkin, the Russian guy from Ant-Man and the cop from Batman Begins, he's in it. And then Josh Brolin.
Yeah, I'll definitely end up watching this movie just from the cast because that actually sounds like a movie I'd like.
And this is one of them, and we'll talk about this for a little bit. This is one of the movies that is wrapped up in the HBO Max thing where we will get it on HBO Max the same day it comes out in theaters.
I love that.
And yeah, so that's something to be kind of excited for. Okie dokie. I'll be quite frank. I'm pretty excited for this. We'll give it a pretty excited out of Nolan's.
Well, I'll just say I'll give it a 9. Like, I don't know what this movie is. I never had any intention in watching it, but just from that cast, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Just cast alone, 9 out of 10.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10 too, just for being something new and a new franchise we've never seen before.
All right, cool. Well, then next up we have A Quiet Place 2. I actually really want to. I just haven't got around to watching the first one. Like, it's always one of those movies that are like, I gotta watch. I just never got around to.
You know me. I hate horror movies with a passion. It's not that I dislike them intrinsically. I will chalk it up to me being an imaginative person who lives alone. But I cannot watch horror movies without getting. I'm not scared while watching the horror movie, but then late at night.
When you try to go to bed.
Yes, honestly, I was rewatching some Doctor Who episodes yesterday. I love Doctor Who, and I was watching some of the horror episodes, and I'm home alone, and all the lights are off, and then in the middle of the night, just like weird creaking from upstairs, and the upstairs people are gone, so I'm a little confused. Scared the shit out of me. Honest to Jesus, scared the crap out of me, and I think that's why I don't like them. But Quiet Place, there's a point to the story. Quiet Place is more of a horror thriller where it's got a couple jump scares, but it's so just suspenseful and it's so good. And John Krasinski directed it and acts in it, and it's so good. Emily Blunt's amazing in it. The girl, I forget her name, but she's an actual deaf actress who plays a deaf character, is so good. It gives like a lot of authenticity to the role. And there's some, I won't spoil anything because it's a good movie. There's some really intense scenes. There's some awesome stuff. It ends in a very interesting way, and I am fascinated to see what the sequel is, because this is another one of those movies where it doesn't need a sequel. It didn't really set up a sequel. Not really. Sort of did, but not really set up a sequel. So they're clearly making the sequel because there's a story to be told, I guess. So I'm excited.
Yeah, no, like, if once I get around to watching the first one, I'll definitely check out the second one, because, one, I love John Krasinski, Emily Blunt's great too, and I just hear so much good things about it, and it seems like we evaluated in our film classes the opening scene to that so many times.
Yeah.
And it definitely seems like a great movie. I just got to get it. I'm kind of the same thing. Like, I barely watch horror movies. Like, I'm usually not, because mostly for me it's just like, oh, it's another one of those horror movie pop scares, and just like, oh,
Yeah.
these monsters, they're killing everybody, and the people, group of kids that they act like idiots where they could get away so easy, but they act stupidly, and then they all die, like, blah, 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 blah. It's not entertaining to me, really, and I don't care for the the number one thing I watch movies for is to be emotionally attached to the characters and like them a lot. Horror movies, I'm never really attached to them. Like, oh, they died, I really don't give a shit.
Yes.
But this seems like one of those horror movies where it wouldn't be like that, and I'd actually be emotionally invested and really care and be on my toes, like, invested in it the entire time.
That's honestly why I'd say this more as a thriller, like a horror thriller, than a horror movie, because you get so invested to the characters because they're built up so well and you see the relationship for so long that...
Yep.
And I think that's the benefit of having so few characters and only like two main characters, is that you get so invested in like these couple characters' lives that when stuff happens, you're like, oh my god. Excuse me, you're so scared. I mean, you know the premise of the movie, obviously. Jim cheats on Pam. The aliens who had been watching them for a while and were invested in their relationship go and kill everyone, and then he hooks up with Emily Blunt. And then the plot twist is that the person who was actually causing all the destruction and killing everyone was Dwight Schrute himself. It was Dwight Schrute.
It was actually just a prank, just to test the office.
It was. It's him and Pam. Dwight, they're vindictive sons of bitches. I will, out of a Jim Halpert look at a camera, we'll give this an intense eye stare.
Perfect. I won't give it a ranking just because I feel like I should watch the first one first. But yeah. Just in general, the first and second one, I actually am interested in checking them out.
This is, to be quite frank, this is an 8 or 9 for me. Maybe even verging on 10, just because it's never a movie I expected us to get a sequel of, and I liked it I never thought I'd like it, and then I liked it more than I did, more than I assumed I would, so I am excited for a sequel.
Cool. Well, then, moving on, we got 3 left on the list, and we got Matrix 4. And I really never watched any of the Matrix, to be honest.
I am, you know this, Joey, I am a Keanu Reeves fan all the way. I think Keanu Reeves, or, as he's known more commonly to his fans, the second coming of Christ. No, to be real, he's a very good actor. And the first Matrix movie is fantastic. People, obviously, including myself, interesting stuff with the second two. But it looks like this is another kind of Halloween Ghostbusters Afterlife thing where they have a good idea for a kind of long-awaited sequel. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm kind of, right now, caught up in the whole John Wick, Bill and Ted, Keanu Reeves sort of thing. So I'm probably more excited for this right now than I was a month ago, and probably more excited for this right now than I will be in like 2 months, but we shall see. That's honestly, I don't even want to give it a rating. We'll just give it a we shall see.
Yeah, so Matrix, a big franchise, seems like everyone loves it, and I was always like kind of interested in getting to watch it, but it was never one of those movies that I was fully committed to, like, I have to go try to watch. So maybe one day, once I'm bored, I can't find any movies on, I'll check out The Matrix, but it's not one that I care about that much to watch.
Even though I like it and I like Keanu Reeves, I fully acknowledge that the first movie is a very paint by numbers chosen one story where it's like, you're the chosen one. We must rescue you so you can save humanity. Oh wow. Like, and I enjoy that just because I like that and it does some cool things. And nowadays it's kind of been kind of cliched and parodied to death, but the whole Matrix altered reality idea at the time was like, novel, and I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. But that's all I got for
what's
that.
What's your ranking?
My ranking is just excited. Honestly, I don't have like a definitive ranking on this one because the first one is good, the second two are definitely not as good, and there's a potential that this is just a cash grab. So I'm hopefully optimistic.
Mm-hmm. That's all you could hope for.
Yeah.
But so then next up we have Death on the Nile, and I honestly have no idea what this is.
Okay, so the reason why I'm excited, I grew up as I said reading a lot, and this is based on the Hercule Poirot Death on the Nile book from Agatha Christie. It's Joey, for a little bit of backstory for you. It is it's technically the sequel to The Murder on the Orient Express. It is about Hercule Poirot, this Belgian detective who goes around with his big mustache, and he's like the best detective in the world, and he goes around solving crimes. He's played by Kevin Branagh in the last one and this one. I believe it's directed by Kevin Branagh too. I found the last one stylistically very enjoyable, even though the plot was a little bit kind of predictable. Obviously, I read the books, but even then it was a little bit predictable. I'm excited to see this one. It has Kevin Branagh returns. Gal Gadot is in it. It's got a really great cast. I'm a sucker for murder mysteries and whodunits, and this is kind of honestly, Agatha Christie kind of created whodunit murder mysteries. So I am all on board.
Yeah, honestly, that does sound interesting because I definitely am a big murder mystery guy myself too, and so I definitely be down to check any of those types of movie out.
Yeah, it's got. I'm do a little quick cast read for you. Gal Gadot, Armie Hammer, Lolita Wright, who is Shuri from Black Panther. She doesn't matter. The lady, you know nothing, Jon Snow from Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Rose Leslie. And then Russell Brand, who is... That's a really weird... Do you know Russell Brand, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, strange. Hi, I'm Russell Brand.
Yeah, so that might be a movie I might go check out sometime. Not sure when, but I'll definitely keep it in mind.
Depending on how much more stuff gets released, I will either watch it... Actually, wait, that might be an HBO? I think that comes out on HBO Max. In that case...
Viewing party?
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it... Let me check. Death on the Nile. Yes. That's a lie. I just looked up Death on the Nile HBO Max, and then it says Death on the Nile is now on HBO Max.
Liar!
Liar! No, but it will come out on HBO Max the same day as
theaters.
Its theater release, so I'll definitely watch it then.
Cool.
No, wait, maybe not. Regardless.
But with that being said, our last movie, besides our superhero films, is Luca, which is the next Pixar film coming out.
Very little information on this. It is another one of Pixar's originals, so it's a new story, which it seems like we're going to get less and less of in the upcoming years, so I'm kind of holding on to this while it lasts. It's about a boy in Italy who's vacationing on the beach, who befriends another boy who is secretly a sea monster.
Interesting.
I really like the weird Pixar plots, and the animation, it seems to be more in line with a Bao or Lost shorts more than their normal Pixar animation, and I think that it's cool that they're kind of branching out in different directions depending on what movie they make.
Yeah. It's just just another Pixar movie. I'll definitely go watch it. Love, love all Pixar movies. So
We shall see. I like their
yeah.
grounded stuff too. As much as I like the existential stuff, whatever. As much as I like Inside Out and Soul for like the existential crisis stuff, I also do like their kind of it's a normal world, but one thing's kind of strange sort of stuff too. You know what I mean? Like Toy Story, where it's a normal world, but the toys can talk. It's a normal vacation, but one guy's a sea monster. That sort of deal.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'll definitely a movie I'll check out.
And then I wanted to mention this last before we go on, but I believe it is called The French. Ah, crap. 2021. The French. I had this up. It's a Wes Anderson movie, which is about. It is a anthology movie that it is. A guy is in France in like I forget when during the expatriate days. Is writing basically this kind of Wall Street journal, not Wall Street Journal, like a New York Times-esque people story thing. So it's a movie where every 20 minutes is a different weird story. So it's like an anthology movie. Very strange, for that very Wes Anderson style. Off the beaten track in terms of what we usually look into, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I know Wes Anderson always has like his very own niche like art style to his films, so
yeah, and this seems to be I think now the fact that he doesn't even need one story to connect everything, he's gone full hog on his art style, which looks kind of cool. But without further ado, let's definitely get into the superheroes.
yeah, so we are getting 8 superhero films within 2021. Honestly, we could make an entire video alone talking about these movies, but we'll try to keep it as short as we can, and we're just gonna rank. Since there's 8 of them, we're gonna rank them in order from 8 to 1. And so to kick that, what do you want to say?
This just occurred to me. This does not include Disney Plus shows.
Oh yeah, no, this is just movies, not the shows. But to kick that off, at number 8 we have Venom 2.
Yeah. I think, and we talked about this, this one is tied for number 8 for me with Morbius. And I think story-wise, I'm technically more invested in this one than Morbius. Because even though Venom isn't the most amazing movie of all time, I found it enjoyable, and I like Venom in the comics. But the reason that this isn't number 7 and Morbius is number 7 is because, as of right now, they keep denying that this has any connection with Spider-Man. Whereas Morbius, we have a definite connection to Homecoming right off the bat.
Yep. So basically, just saying we got Venom 2 at 8 and then Morbius at 7. And they're both movies that I am definitely interested in. They're coming straight from Sony. They're not in the MCU, but it seems like there might be some ties to it. So these 2 movies probably lay off 2 of the top movies that lay off like the biggest questions out of all, because you really don't know what it's connected to, what is, while you have like all the other DC movies or MC movies. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff we're excited for to see, but we know that it's connected and where it may be leading up to, while these movies we have no idea if it's supposed to be part of it or not. So that's kind of the biggest draw to the movies, is trying to figure out what that is, and there could be huge reveals that kind of changes the entire cinematic Marvel universe if it does.
And I think, I like Tom Hardy, and I found the Venom movie enjoyable. And I think, even though Woody Harrelson at the end of Venom looked really bad, I like Carnage, and he's a good actor, so I'm excited to see where that goes. Yeah.
So, yep. So, we had Venom 2 at 8, Morbius at 7, and then that brings us to number 6.
Before we get into number 6, I will have to say, even though Morbius I'm excited for, I'm not a huge fan of Jared Leto, I'm not going to lie. And
I never was either.
Yeah, and I'm a little nervous that he's going to go way too kind of weird and strange. Like, Morbius is very weird and strange in the comics, but he does have this grounded sense of humanity, where, like, if anyone's watched the 1990s Spider-Man cartoon, which I really like, they have a Morbius subplot where, like, he's sort of a good guy, but he's really prideful, but then he's kind of battling with this. He has to, like, absorb plasma to live, but he hates himself for becoming a vampire. So it's that really cool dichotomy of what happens when a nice pacifistic person becomes this living vampire. but I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to go past that for just weird and wacky Jared Leto.
And also what I'm thinking about, if they are planning to tie these movies in with the MCU with Spider-Man, does I also raise the question if this is going to tie into Blade, because Blade has been announced for the MCU.
Yes. I keep hearing speculation. There's a rumor it is, there's a rumor it isn't. Part of me hopes yes. Part of me hopes no, because I really, as much as I like the Sony Spider-Man stuff for the most part, to be quite honest, they're not as good as handling stuff as Marvel. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? It's been obvious for a while now. The reason that the Spider-Man movies work is because it's like Kevin Feige is still overseeing it, and I'm a little worried that Blade might be accidentally tethered to something that's not as good if they make it like a direct Morbius tie-in.
Yep. But yeah, so I'm interested to see what they do. Honestly, I hope it's not part of the MCU, but I wouldn't mind if they tie things together like a multiverse type deal.
I think
like it doesn't affect the main timeline, but it could have a crossover with the multiverse aspect because it seems like it's digging into that deep now within the MCU.
And I think it's something that we'll have to talk about later, but they have, like, Disney Plus rebranded everything that's not technically in the MCU but is a Marvel movie as Marvel Legends on Disney Plus, I believe. And I think that's what they're going to start leaning towards more, is all this stuff is in the multiverse, but it's not canon to the main MCU timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just one of those things you have to make clear for more people that are casual watchers and not like huge fans. Because obviously huge fans will know the difference from an MCU fan or not. But if you're just like a casual watcher, like, oh, so does this connect or this? Like, especially my dad. Don't even get me started about my dad. Every single time we watch a new movie, like you could watch an Avengers movie for the millionth time and it'd be like, so is this DC? I'm like, no, it's Marvel. They're Avengers. And he goes, oh, so is Superman in the Avengers? I'm like, no, he's not. Like every single time we bring up the same question every time. He goes, oh, X-Men, that's DC. I'm like, no, it's Marvel. He goes, why aren't they in Avengers? I'm like, it's a different studio. So people who aren't like us big fans, they don't understand a lot of that stuff that's going on. So it'd be nice if they could distinctly make sure it doesn't confuse people.
And I think we'll move on to the next one, but I think they're definitely going to kind of try to help that with Spider-Man 3. I think they'll try to explain everything away. Okay, what do we got for 6?
Number 6, we have the Justice League Snyder Cut.
Justice League, technically not a movie, but we'll include it.
So this is honestly one of the biggest like DC thing that's being talked about, because we have already had this. It's already a movie that came out, but they are re-editing it because there is so much stuff that they cut out of the movie that basically changes the entire timeline and like what the DC universe is.
Yes, and I think, excuse me for my yawn. Originally what they announced was it was just a re-edit with some ADR, right? They're like, just a re-edit with some ADR.
But it's not.
But they've also now more recently announced they are doing pickup shots, they are doing reshoots. This is, and I know it's technically a re-edit of a movie we already done. It's not. It is a totally different movie that happens to take some... It's one of the first times this has ever been really done, to my knowledge. I've kind of looked into this a little. Like, you have the closest this would be to is like maybe Blade Runner, where they had all the re-edits. But I think I'm more fascinated to see a couple things. If this is liked, and this has been this came up this week, honestly, because there's been this huge thing where Zack Snyder kind of makes it sound like he's not coming back to the DC after this, but maybe he is. I think if this is liked, they will make this canon and run from here. I think if this is disliked, they will nullify both Justice League movies entirely and just run with the whole kind of worlds of DC concept where you can kind of have an infinite multiverse and nothing's ever really connected, and, you know, if they happen to connect at some point, kind of whoop-de-doo sort of thing.
Honestly, the biggest thing on why I think they are kind of planning on making it canon if it is liked is because once they're spending all this money doing all these re-edits, it's going from like 2 hours to 4 hours, and just from the trailers you see all these different plot lines that changes the movie entirely. Plus, I'm a huge Flash fan, and I'm like,
yes,
what the hell? When are we getting the Flash movie? We had 2 Wonder Woman movies, and that we didn't get a single Flash movie. It's being pushed back, and like they're not doing it. And now it's being announced that it's going to be like a Flashpoint movie, and they have like kind of their own little multiverse of Batmans in it. So I feel, and you could see he's like going. It seems like he's in the Speed Force in the trailer for Justice League. So I feel like the reason why they're holding back because they're like, well, with the way they cut Justice League, it kind of doesn't set up for what they wanted the Flash movie to be. So maybe now with this Justice League movie, it kind of sets up for what the Flash movie is going to be.
I also, this is interesting, and when we talk about the Wonder Woman movie at some point, we'll talk about people online. I don't know why people online got really angry that Wonder Woman isn't perfectly canon to Justice League 2017. Here is why, in my brain, and I'm assuming this is the correct answer, I have a sneaking suspicion. The reason why is it's canon to the Snyder Cut. Because they wrote the script when Zack Snyder was shooting his version, and then they released it when Snyder Cut was in full, like, regalia. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, oh, release the Snyder Cut. So I have a sneaking suspicion that the reason Wonder Woman 1984 doesn't perfectly line up with the Justice League movie we saw is because it lines up with the Snyder Cut of the new movie.
I hope it does, to be honest.
I think if it lines up with the Snyder Cut, I think people will look. I love the Wonder Woman movie. I know a lot of people didn't, but I think it maybe will make people look back on it more favorably. Like if Snyder Cut is good and Wonder Woman is great in that, based on her 1984 thing, I think people will be like, oh, now I see where they were going. This is so good, as opposed to why. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I hope so. I think I'm just generally excited. I'm more interested than excited on this one.
Yeah, same. Definitely.
I'm just like, what's happening? ¿Por qué?
Mm-hmm.
¿Por qué, señor?
That's not just Justice League. That's the entire DC universe. Like, what the fuck's going on there?
I will have to say, and we'll get this into, it's the thing that differentiates it from Suicide Squad. I am actually excited for Suicide Squad just because it's one of those things where they gave the director complete control of everything, including characters' futures, but we'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm. But moving on, at number 5, we have Black Widow. And this is another one of those movies where it's like missed the time frame, where it's just like we're super excited for Black Widow. Like, it was just year after Spider-Man Far From Home, and we know she died in Endgame, and plus it's the first movie in Phase 4, and it's supposed to set up some future stuff, so it really got us excited. But then we have to wait an entire year after it was originally supposed to be released, so it's going to be technically 2 years since our last Marvel movie, and it's kind of just like dragging on, like, kind of forgetting about it now. But once again, it's another Marvel movie. It's going to be our first one besides the TV shows to come out, so of course I'm excited to watch it. I'm always excited for a Marvel movie.
Ironically, I think what might have not killed this movie but lessened this movie was the Disney shareholder meeting, because last year we were like, oh my god, we don't know what's going to happen, and Black Widow's going to set it up, you know what I mean? Whereas now we're like, oh, okay, once we kind of get over Black Widow, we'll get literally 100 things that kind of influence the future of the MCU. So even though I love Scarlett Johansson, I like the Black Widow character, I'm, to be clear, very excited for this movie, it's kind of slowly gone down because of everything else I know we're getting.
Plus, Marvel movies are released in a specific order because it has stuff in the movie that ties into the future, so it can't really be released out of order. So then you think, hey, something from Black Widow might lead into The Winter Soldier, and then WandaVision, then Eternals, because that's how the order is. But then they changed the order where they actually have 2 shows coming out before the movie now, so it seems like that doesn't affect the timeline at all.
That gets me a little worried, because we talked about this before, I was 100% sure that the reason it kept getting pushed back and not just released was because I was 100% sure the reason that Falcon and Winter Soldier kept getting pushed back was because they needed to wait for
Black Widow.
But now it seems like they don't need to at all.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm like, oh, so Black Widow doesn't affect that much. I think, if anything, I have a sneaking suspicion it will set up the She-Hulk show and more of the Gamma and Science part of the universe.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. To be honest, there's a lot of things that could happen with this movie. I'm not completely sure. I'm excited to see what happens, and, yeah, I'm looking forward to this a lot. But, is there anything else you want to say about that movie?
Honestly, no. I mean, we've been literally talking about it for a full year. I think our first episode was what we expect from the Black Widow movie.
Mm-hmm. But with that being said, we can move on to number 4, which is Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. I am probably more excited than I expected for this one as more information comes out. They said, I mean, Peacemaker is getting his own TV show, potentially a prequel based off this on HBO Max. They said that any character, including Harley Quinn, can die in this film. Let's see.
Plus, there's just a million characters, too.
And they're all weird. I mean, potentially they got Polka Dot Man, potentially Arm Fall Off Boy.
Fall Off Man, I'm sold. When we made the episode of the worst superheroes ever, and he was on our list. And then like a couple months later, they announced that he's possibly in the movie. Or was like, oh my god, this is a dream come true.
I think it was, we made a joke about how he should be in Suicide Squad, and then the week after we released the video, it got announced that Nathan Fillion a leak said Nathan Fillion's playing him. It also has Peter Capaldi in it, who's the Doctor from Doctor Who, and I love that guy, and I'm super excited to see he's playing the Thinker, and I'm kind of, after seeing how kind of mishandled he was in kind of the Flash TV show, I'm excited to see a classic Flash villain there. I think they've got the weirdest cast of characters you could possibly get from DC. I love that. I think James Gunn is going to thrive in that. It looks like the villain is Starro, the magical space starfish, which is just like, what the why? But I love that so much.
Yeah, no, this is definitely going to be, I think this movie's going to be a hit. The first one kind of flopped and was disappointing, but this one looks like it has very high potential of being possibly one of the best DC Universe movies.
Dude, I forgot Taika Waititi was in it.
He is?
Yeah, I totally forgot. How did I forget that?
Oh my god, even better. Dude,
even better.
This movie is good. I think this movie's going to be great.
I think, here's why I think I'm more excited for this than the first one. The first one had like 6 characters, so they could only ever really kill off one. Which is exactly what they did. They killed off one to kind of show that they were in danger for the story purposes, and then moved on. Whereas this one has, I think, like 50 characters. And they said that people, like, throughout the movie, the team will not stay the same. So I think that people will literally, at random points in the film, just get killed and replaced, like, just right then and there. Like, someone gets their head blown off, then they just drop in a replacement. Someone else dies, they drop in a replacement. Which is the weirdest concept for a film, and I kind of love it.
You kind of just reminded me of Deadpool 2, when they first make the X-Force team, they jump out of the airplane, they all just freaking die right away.
Did you hear what they paid Brad Pitt for that role?
A lot?
No, a single cup of coffee.
Oh yeah, no, actually I did hear about that. I remember that now.
Where Brad Pitt was
funny.
I'll do your movie. And they're like, we have to pay you something. And he's like, $2.50 so I can get a cup of coffee.
That's great.
That's hilarious. I mean, he's in LA, so what, a cup of coffee is probably like $57?
True.
If it's a Starbucks coffee, you're talking a couple grand. I'm very excited for this. Yeah.
That'll be a hit this year. But so if we move on, number 3 we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
I'm super excited for Shang-Chi. I have a couple reasons why I'm excited. One, I'm a sucker for martial arts movie, and I'm a sucker for samurai films. And they're really leaning into the martial arts thing. I love that. Mm-hmm. I'm a sucker for a Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan movie. I think that they're kind of going that Jackie Chan style of slightly funny martial arts. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's definitely going to be a funny film from that video the actor
doing
released
the stunts,
for a tease. Yeah. It's basically just to give the vibe of what the movie's going to be like, I'm like, this is probably going to be a funny movie.
It does really give me that Jackie Chan vibe of he's doing these impossibly and amazing stunts, but he's also playing it off as kind of humorous. So you're both in awe, like, oh my god, he just actually slid down a building, with no ropes. But at the same time, you're kind of laughing because he does it in a funny way. So you know what I mean? And I love that mixture. I'm excited because it's bringing the Mandarin back, it's bringing the terrorist group back from the first Iron Man film. It's explaining how all the kind of, I think allegedly it's going to explain how the mystic and technology parts of the universe cross over. You know what I mean? Like, how they've always had, they have the mystic part of the MCU, they have the fighting part of the MCU, they have the science part of the MCU, and then they have the cosmic part of the MCU. Apparently this is mystic, fighting, and science all rolled into one.
I think that would be great.
I'm so excited. Would you believe, over the summer I went to this like weird auction place, and I found one of the original Shang-Chi comics, like still packaged, and I bought it, and I have it in my room somewhere. Yeah.
Interesting.
It was like dirt cheap.
But,
no one wanted it.
Hey, that's what we love to hear. But another reason why I'm super excited for this movie is because, one, the Captain America movies, especially Winter Soldier and Civil War, are two of my favorite movies because the way they film the fighting scenes is absolutely amazing. There's the hand-to-hand combat looks so good, and I could watch it a million times and never get bored of this. And this movie, he's supposed to be an even better hand-to-hand fighter than Captain America. So I feel like they would dig deep and take off of the Captain America style filming into these fight scenes, which I am really excited to see how they do.
And I've also heard, I have two things. I have heard that because the fact that Simu Liu, the actor who plays Shang-Chi, actually can do all the stunts, they can do. It's more like something. I'm keep harping on Jackie Chan, but I love Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee. But because he could do his own stunts, they could do long takes with stunts in them because they didn't have to cut away for stuntmen. And it sounds like they're doing a lot of that in this movie, where we'll get these insane one-take, actual kung fu scenes where it's just all martial arts and it's amazing.
Did you ever see the Netflix movie Extraction yet?
I have not, no.
Dude, because it's the Russo brothers and the same cinematographer that did Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
They have this one long take action scene that is absolutely amazing. Like, he's just running through a building, just around corners, just fighting guys out of nowhere, and just like amazing hand-to-hand combat. And the next thing, he goes into a car, and then the camera, literally one take, follows him throughout this entire scene, and then it jumps onto the car and mounts onto the car with him, and then jumps off the car again, and he's going, fighting everybody. I'm like, this is honestly one of the coolest like fighting scenes I've ever seen in my life. Like, if they could do stuff like that, amazing.
That makes sense. I just actually looked it up. You see Creed 2, right?
Yep.
You know the big guy, Creed's son?
Yeah.
He's one of the villains. And he's an actual Ukrainian boxer / super combat artist. So he can do all the stunts and fight scenes himself.
That would be really cool.
That's amazing.
I'm telling you, this might be the best fighting movie out of the entire MCU. Like, no CGI, just like strictly hand-to-hand combat. I think it might top Winter Soldier.
I think they're trying to make it. I think they realize that they can really hit home on that, like, kind of classic martial art movie style, and they're going to try to update and do something new with that. I'm super... Yeah. As we're talking about this, I get more and more excited for it.
Yeah. But within time, it will come.
I think July, I believe, right?
Yep.
So sooner than we think.
I mean, the way the past year went, time flew by really fast, so if it goes that way, tomorrow the movie might be out.
2021 is either going to be incredibly fast, or, because we're kind of waiting for the coronavirus to end, incredibly long. But we shall see.
But with that being said, that brings us to number 2, and number 2 is The Eternals.
Eternals. We will.
I am super excited.
Let's keep this spoiler free.
Yeah, I'm super. Yeah, we saw a toy leak that kind of could spoil some potential plots of the movie. But I'm mostly excited just because this really digs deep into the cosmic part of the MCU, which we do know some stuff about, but there's just so much stuff and information to know, and I think the MCU is going more cosmic than Earthbound now, and this is really going to be a movie that kicks off as it takes place, 200 years or so? How long?
I think it's the entire Marvel universe.
Hey, that's why it's like, I honestly don't know what to expect from this movie.
I mean, at least, so I know part of the movie takes place in ancient Babylon, part of it takes place in pseudo-modern day, it's like, maybe not modern day, but near the current day. I know apparently they see the Avengers in action at some point. They also are spacebound, they have a spaceship, they have the spaceship from the comics that's been confirmed. So I'm like, this could honestly be anything. And I really like that.
Yep.
I really
Plus great cast too.
Amazing cast. I'm Kumail Nanjiani. I'm a huge fan of comedy wise, and he is a really good actor as well. The Big Six really good. I'm excited for him to be in it. Richard Madden looks great in it. Angelina Jolie looks good in it. I'm also excited to see. I have a sneaking suspicion that this will be the one where they set up the next big cosmic villain.
Possibly, yeah. There's a great chance of that.
I think that this will be your sort of Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Where, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Thanos shows up, has a couple lines and leaves. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to start seeing some sort of... I don't know if it'll be Galactus. I don't know if it'll be some sort of Celestial. I don't know if it'll be what it is. But I think we'll start to get the rumblings of whatever the cosmic villain is for the next couple of years.
Dormammu has to pop up at some point. Because a character like that, it's that powerful, just shows up in Doctor Strange for the ending scene. There's no way...
I think Dormammu usually gets stuck to the magic people, though. He never really, with the exception of a couple times, he never really goes into the main Marvel villain thing in the comics. And the reason why, honestly, is if you don't have magic, you literally can't fight him.
True.
You know what I mean? And I think that's why they'll avoid making him the big villain, is because you can't put someone like Bucky or... Winter Soldier, even armored to the teeth, you can't put them against a Dormammu, whereas you can technically put them against a Galactus or a Cosmic Doom, like a Doctor Doom sort of guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, interested to see what they do. But
what do we got for our last two?
No, that was number 2.
What do we got for our last one? Oh,
number 1... as I think everybody can guess.
Yeah.
It is...
the reboot of Keanu Reeves' Constantine. Yay!
Really?
No.
I was going to say Captain Underpants, too.
Oh! Yay!
But no, it is Spider-Man 3.
And by this, we mean the home release of the original Spider-Man 3. Yay!
Yeah.
But it's the extended edition with even more dance scenes. Yay!
That's how... Well, as if everything goes to plan and we do have the Spider-Verse within this movie with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, the opening scene of when they come through the portal, whatever, of the multiverse, where they enter the MCU timeline world, it's going to be Tobey Maguire out of Spider-Man 3 while he's in his emo phase dancing. It's that dancing scene and a portal just pops up and he walks right through it. And it's like within those edits of of the portal scene from Endgame where they have literally every hero comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, those videos are so funny. They have him just dancing through the portal. That's just what I picture him in Spider-Man 3.
I really hope, and we've talked Spider-Man 3 to death, so we don't have to do too much speculation on it. Obviously, Tobey Maguire is rumored to be in it. Andrew Garfield is rumored to be in it. So is Kirsten Dunst and Emma Stone. I hope the post-credit scene is Tobey Maguire is stuck in the MCU, right? In the proper MCU. And, get this, he goes in his phone, and he goes, oh, what's this? And young Tom Holland's like, oh, yeah, well, that's TikTok. And he goes, TikTok, eh? We just see him go,
just dancing.
And then you just see him with a little camera set up, and he goes this, get on up. And he starts.
Well, there's already a multiverse within the movie. Remember, I took his place in the dance.
That's true. Yep, that is true.
But all jokes aside, this might be a hot take, but honestly, there's good. I think there's good like evaluation to say that this can happen. This movie might be as big of a movie as Endgame was with the hype wise and the opening night theater where everyone's screaming and yelling.
You know
one of
what?
those type of viewings.
This strikes me more as you're saying this, and this strikes me almost like an Avengers Infinity War sort of deal, where
Yeah.
we know it's not the end like we did Endgame, but instead it's potentially the beginning of something game changing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was so excited for Infinity War because I knew it was part one of two. I knew it would set up basically the end of the MCU and what would go on from it. And I was so excited. Potentially, I was excited for Endgame, but for very different reasons. I was excited for Infinity War because of its just the what it could bring to the table, whereas I was excited for Endgame to see how it would end it. I think this is an Infinity War level of I'm just so excited to see what this will bring to the table for the future of the MCU.
I just feel like because Infinity War, it was because it was one of those things when I watch in theaters, a packed theater, not a single like I had to be there an hour before, it's completely packed, and there wasn't that much screaming or whatever, but there was moments where people were like, oh, definitely laughing and then like gasping and like, oh my god! But at the end of the movie, then people like when it just ended, everyone was dead. Then everyone kind of just started talking like, oh my god! While in Endgame, literally every 10 minutes, everyone's like screaming and yelling. So, but I feel like if it is almost like a Spider-Verse movie, and Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire are all in it at the same time, then I feel like it would be more on the Endgame aspect where people are screaming like loudly during it.
I think you're right. I was lucky enough to when I saw Infinity War, I got a really good audience. So like when Thor lands in Wakanda, swear to God, there must have been a girl that
screaming like crazy,
and then went very quiet. So there's a chance she just fainted. But I really like the reason why I like Spider-Man. The reason I think this movie will do so well is because Spider-Man has Avengers is. It sounds really weird to say because the comics have been around for a while, but in mainstream media, Avengers is a relatively new thing. Like up until before 2012-ish, there was never any big, you know what I mean? Like the Avengers never had a movie, they never had a crazy TV show, they had this. Whereas Spider-Man has been not only part of people's childhood since the 60s. Like embedded. When I saw Spider-Man Far From Home, it was really funny. I saw Spider-Man Far From Home in like the middle of the day for some reason. You know what it was? I was working on the night of, so I couldn't see it night of, like that Thursday night. So I saw it Friday at like 1 p.m. So there's like no one there, middle of summer, it's like July 14th or whatever. And there was this like 6-year-old man just sitting in the middle of the theater, completely alone, who got so much enjoyment out of that movie. It was so just wholesome to watch because it was clear that this guy had like grown up on Spider-Man, and it was just having so much fun watching his childhood character. So, what is it, 60 years later? And I think that's why this movie will do so well and be so an appeal. If you love Tobey Maguire, this movie is for you. If you are the small audience that loved Andrew Garfield, I like Andrew Garfield, but I'm not gonna like love. This movie's for you. If you love Tom Holland with a burning passion, you're a 13-year-old girl, and this movie is for you. You know, that sort of appeal.
Yep.
So I think I'm just so excited.
Yep. Yeah, this, especially, like you said, your childhood. Spider-Man was my favorite superhero growing up.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like he's my second favorite now ever since Captain America came up. He just stole the show for me, but I still absolutely love Spider-Man. Because the Tobey Maguire movies were basically the only live-action superhero movie besides X-Men, which I was never really a huge X-Men fan growing up. So, like, to say Spider-Man was really the only live-action superhero movie, really to watch, like, growing up. So that's why it's just, like, one of those things, like, oh my god, like, this is amazing, even though now we have literally every superhero has their own movie. And Spider-Man Far From Home was the first Spider-Man movie ever to make $1 billion, and it had the biggest cliffhanger in the post-credit scene ever in a Spider-Man movie. So that's just probably going to double the excitement from Far From Home. So this movie's just going to make a crazy amount of money.
I think I think also as a kid, and we can wrap this up soon, but as a kid, the reason why, and I love the X-Men so much, but I think Spider-Man is kind of that ageless thing where kids can enjoy it, adults can enjoy it. Where X-Men was very much as a kid, like I was born in 2000, X-Men had just come out. Um, X-Men was because of its adult themes. I don't mean like inappropriate themes. I mean like it deals with this kind of sort of racism and segregation sort of thing, and it's kind of violent and brutal, and you see what happens. That never. First of all, I wasn't allowed to watch that when I was 2, obviously, but it never kind of appealed to me until I got a little bit older. Whereas Spider-Man, it's this guy who has the worst luck in the world, and he's a total. He just gets kicked on by life, except he also gets to be this superhero that people love, and it's that weird dichotomy, and it's just timeless. It's so good, and the fact that we did get to get all of his live action representations potentially in one film is fantastic.
All else I gotta say is just like this is gonna be the biggest movie of 2021.
Yeah, I think this will be huge. I think the minute they release a trailer for it, right now it's all speculation. So unless you're in the nerd culture, you're not really buying into it yet. It's just third Spider movie. I think the minute they release a trailer, and if they're smart, what they'll do is do a Civil War thing, where at the very end of the trailer, you have like maybe Tobey Maguire show up. People will lose their minds.
There's no doubt this movie is going to be a hit. No doubt.
With that being said, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, this is a very long episode, but it was worth it.
Oh, definitely worth it. It's kind of it's the inaugural episode. We've been kind of on a hiatus for a little bit. And we're kicking off the new year with a bang. Hopefully this year, now that everything's kind of settled down, we'll get really headstrong into the podcast. So thanks guys for checking in and tuning in. Check us out on everything: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at The Blip Pod, all one word. Yeah, check out Joey on TikTok. Check out, what are you up to? You said you're up to 20,000 followers?
Yeah, just about.
So whoop whoop, congratulations on that. And am I forgetting anything?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, so in that case, stay nerdy.
And positive.
And happy holidays, and hope you guys have a much better 2021 than we had in 2020.
If these movies keep their release dates, then looks like we have a good 2021 coming.
Potentially, here's what could happen. That was the last thing. If we don't get the vaccine, if we don't get the virus under control, we'll just republish this next year for 2020. If you're listening to this in 2022, just feel bad for us that we don't know this is about to happen. Just be like, these poor fools. They thought they were going to see Spider-Man this year.
Son of a gun.
Okay, see you guys later.
Oh, wow. Yeah, see ya.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.